Today on Network Africa, two political parties in the Congo Republic petitioned the government to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. A tale of two unpopular presidents. President Jacob Zuma is welcomed by the Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe. Both face calls to step down, including protests over corruption and the state of the economy. The Kenyan government deports spokesperson for South Sudan's former Vice President Riek Machar after his visa was cancelled. Let's begin Network Africa. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. I am Amarachi Ubani. We begin in the Congo Republic, where two political parties are petitioning the government to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. The two parties, the Patriotic Front and the 2020 Awakening Movement, led a protest march of about 300 people in the capital, Brazzaville, where they argued that court membership was incompatible with the provision in Congo's constitution that forbids extradition to a foreign power or organization. The two parties delivered a memorandum to Justice Minister Pierre Mabiala, who said he would study the proposal before making a recommendation to the government. African states have been complaining they seem to be the target of indictments by the court. As a result, Burundi, South Africa and the Gambia have joined in requesting withdrawal from the court. The ICC opened in 2002, July. It has 124 member states, many of whom are from Africa. President Jacob Zuma of South Africa was in neighboring Zimbabwe yesterday, despite corruption allegations and calls for him to step down back home. He was welcomed by President Robert Mugabe, himself also facing anti-government protests over administration of the economy. Meanwhile, Zimbabweans are facing a scheme to print counterfeit bond notes ahead of their introduction in a few weeks. People remain skeptical about the bond notes, the original ones, as they fear it may be a return to hyperinflation.
South Africa's President Jacob Zuma was welcomed by his Zimbabwean counterpart Robert Mugabe as a vote of no confidence was called for his return following allegations of government graft. A frail-looking Mugabe addressed the increasing criticism Zuma is facing in South Africa after investigators documented allegations of government corruption.
Comrade President, we need each other even more now than before. More now as we face renewed assaults on our independence and sovereignty.
With his presidency mired in crisis, Zuma faces a no-confidence vote in Parliament next week, demanded by the main opposition after a report by the country's anti-corruption watchdog called for a judicial inquiry into allegations of influence peddling in the African National Congress government. Leader of the main opposition Democratic Alliance, Musi Mamani, told a news conference in Cape Town that the no-confidence debate and vote was scheduled for November 10.
Personally, in reading this particular report, could never justify why you would keep a man like Jacob Zuma as head of government. He is unfit to be the president of the republic.
ANC stalwarts met in Johannesburg on Thursday to discuss a way forward for the party after the report entitled State of Capture listed several allegations against Zuma, the wealthy Gupta family, two cabinet ministers and executives at state-owned firms. Some of the former ANC veterans said they were concerned that the liberation movement has lost its way under Zuma's leadership.
I view the ANC is captured by corrupted people or compromised people who have no choice but to continue with what they are doing, because if they don't, some of them will end up in jail.
There have been widening fissures in the ruling party this year and growing discontent with the scandals that have plagued Zuma's presidency and that played a role in the ANC suffering its worst electoral losses since the end of apartheid in municipal polls in August. Zuma has survived his two previous no-confidence votes this year, largely backed by the support of the ANC, which controls about 2/3 of the assembly.
Back in South Africa, the chief prosecutor who faced criticism for dropping fraud charges against the finance minister says his decision was not influenced by anyone. Sean Abrahams told a parliamentary committee he had never been captured, he is not captured and never will be. He seemed unapologetic for his actions, though Mr. Gordhan described the allegations of fraud against him as without merit and are politically motivated. More drama in neighboring Zimbabwe as university students began protesting during a graduation ceremony at the University of Science of Technology in Bulawayo. President Robert Mugabe was in attendance, but that did not stop students from carrying placards and calling for his resignation. Protests against the president and his policies are becoming increasingly common in the face of an economic crisis. The 2 million jobs he promised in 2013 elections have failed to materialize, and less than 20% of the population is formally unemployed. The president, who is chancellor of all state universities, is expected to cap all graduating students. More than 60 schools will be shut down in Uganda, and that's following a High Court ruling. The schools are run by Bridge International Academies, which says it offers cheap but quality education to poor children. Donations are gotten from the UK government and philanthropic billionaires. And it all sounds good on paper, but accusations about poor sanitation, inadequate infrastructure, and not following the national curriculum have become one too many. An education ministry official says the schools will have to close immediately, which will affect around 12,000 students in the middle of the school term. Bridge International, which opened its first school in Uganda in 2015, disputes the ruling and will be appealing the decision.